is something that we can avoid, and we can assert our rights as sovereign, people. With a sovereign, we have a constitution, and it recognises and asserts our inalienable rights in there, and that's what we need to. I suppose that's what I understand, and that's what's working for me. And
I know,
all these statutes, acts, and bills and legislation that the directors of the company, government of Ireland or Republic of Ireland or whatever you want to call it, whatever it's registered to be, none of them apply to you when you're in a national capacity. They're all bills and it's all commerce, and it's all civil, and it needs your consent, and it needs you to give them your name in an all caps capacity or surname, which when you give them that name, they use your social security PPS number to summon you to court in that capacity, and then that's the way they're going to take people down. And for me, we spoke earlier on about people who so-called what they call protesting and out in the streets and doing all this stuff and calling themselves citizens and stuff and online and all that thing. And this is where they're coming after people now in that persona. Yeah. With all this hate speech legislation, you have the online legislation coming out. I think it's already being approved.
Are you talking about are you talking about like the likes of like when they say citizen journalism and stuff like that? Is that what you're saying?
Citizen journalists, citizen people, a citizen, anything to do with citizenship is corporation. Yeah, it's your corporate identity. It's something that everybody has via their birth certificate. But your citizenship or your PPS or social security number should only be used when you're doing commerce. When you're trying to benefit from the state, you have to use that. Or when you're trying to, go on airplanes or do business or do commerce in any way, shape or form, you're in your citizenship capacity. And then there's rules there for legislation to, I suppose, they're rules for business. But I mean, when you're out in your private capacity, then you can step back into your national capacity, and none of these legislations or acts or bills or any of this stuff applies. And because we have a law, we have a constitution. I know the constitution is a mighty conversation in the world at the moment. It's in England, they're talking about it, all around the world, constitutional change. And the big thing they're trying to take down is people's nation. Yeah. That's what they're after here, and you can see it all around the world. And we have a nation, and we have a state, and it's the same as era. But the nation is the people who, enacted and gave ourselves this constitution, which is Article 1, us the people, and then the rest was rules of government, and it was all with fundamental rights, equality, liberty, inalienable rights, property rights, private property rights, and that's what people need to understand, the difference in private.
Someone had said it to me already before. One of the questions was like, they thought with a constitution, like if you're sovereign, a constitution kind of like enslaves you, sort of thing. They were saying. What do you think of that?
Yeah, well, that is a case if you're dealing out of a book that's like there's constitutions on ships, and then there's constitutions on land. There's constitutions in societies. There's so many different types of constitutions, so it depends on what jurisdiction you're operating out of. So our constitution on Bunrock, the Irish constitution, basically people shouldn't really go much further than Article 1 when they're recognising themselves. Yeah. Because what it does, it's a document that asserts your inalienable and sovereign right, Yeah. And that's the most important thing. And jurisdiction is in text and grammar. That's what the word jurisdiction comes from. It's dictionary, Sui juris is a living man or woman. And the dictionary then is the grammar and text and characters of words written on a piece of paper. And in Irish law, if there is to be a law against you, or to be criminal or whatever it is in your Irish national capacity, it must be given to you in either English, which is, old English, like it's higher lowercase English, or the Irish text, which is Clo Gaelic. the rest of that, summonses, fines, statutes, acts, legislation, it's all done in Roman civil procedure, but it's for business purposes only. So what we're doing is fighting that, because it's so important to be in that capacity when all this shit that's coming at us and coming at Irish people, and has been for many years. We've been indoctrinated into this persona. You know, you see when the guards try and stop you or speak to you, the first thing they really need to get is for you to give them a name, because that gives them then, you know, so it depends on how you address, how you speak, and what words you use. That's the jurisdiction, the dictionary.
You're probably better off speaking Ukrainian to them.
Well, yeah, at the moment, yeah. At the moment, well, look, it's just an unfortunate thing, Mark, in my learning, because I've been learning about the Constitution for quite a while, you know.
Yeah.
I've been living in this sort of capacity most of my living life. So I suppose in one sense, I'm a bit ahead of the game with that. You know what I mean? I've been in lay litigation with financial institutions for years. You know, expelled from school at quite a young age, and you know, still at that age, 11, 12 years of age, I wouldn't give a guard my name. You know, that's just the type of man I was, or boy I was. So then seeing corruption and then understanding Irish law was the most important thing I did, and I really. You know, it's about, for me, it was when my heart started trusting my mind, because that's what needs to happen. It's an internal thing. And when you have truth and you prove it to yourself, nobody can stop you then, do you know what I mean? And that's what happened to me with this constitution. And it was when my mother passed in 2020, November 2020, and we used it and we voted to get her remains given back to the family. I said, right, there's something in this. So then we tried to use it again in a commercial court, in a civil matter in Wexford, and it done quite well. You know, I separated myself from that entity, and it was a great thing to do. Separated the text and grammar and proved that Roman civil procedure doesn't apply. So now we were in the CCJ last week with a friend, and we done a little bit of work there, and it was, you know, quite good. And that's going to, we hope, to get a good outcome coming out of that soon. And then I'm in court myself on purported alleged criminal charges that I'm going to be fighting, and then I'm going to, hopefully, my next stage is to take civil as well. You know, I'm going to counter sue Garda Síochána and councils and stuff like that. So what I'm talking about isn't something that, you know, I've just learned last week or last year. It's something that I've been doing for quite a while, and I'm that confident with it.
I know you know your stuff.
Yeah,
you're a great teacher, and I know you know your stuff. So, you know.
So yeah, that's basically where I'm trying to get, you know. And I put up comments and I say stuff to people. It's so important, the language and the text and who you present yourself to be.
Yeah.
Because, you know, the world is a funny place at the moment with everything that's going on. And it's happening all over Western Europe. You know, the implantation of migrants, or whatever they want to call them.
Yeah.
Fighting age men. You know, it doesn't matter what colour their skin is. To me, that doesn't matter. You know, the only difference between any other man or any other woman than me is the colour of my eyes.
Yeah.
You know, I used to say I'm a black Irish native man, just to get people's minds to think, you know, because what is black? It's just a colour.
That's
you know, if they decided next year they're going to change white to be black and black to be white, would you just accept it? You know, this is what happens in the world. You know, like people would say, you know, if you tell people an orange is an apple for long enough, they believe it, and you could see that going on with the agendas.
Yeah.
And you see that here definitely in the text and the books and the literature that we've studied and read. What's happening to us? You know, we've been told that the government of Ireland is our government.
Yeah.
We've been told that a crown book is our constitution.
But they didn't tell us it was a crown book.
Roman fonts and all this.
Yeah. They didn't tell us it's a crown book. Do you know what I mean? That's the thing. We didn't know we were still under British rule.
Well, look, yeah, as in the legislation, yeah, you are. It's all legislated from. Well, it's European now as well. Do you know what I mean? Because people understand, like, when you're a born man, an Irish national, that doesn't remove your citizenship. It's still there. It doesn't go away. It's just, it's not you. So it's up to you then to see, right, okay, do I need to use that? to benefit me, yes or no. So that's your right to contract or not the contract. And that's the massive thing, and people are going into and dealing in situations with members of an Garda Síochána and solicitors and barristers and all that and giving themselves over to them. So we need to find a way of collectively looking at the Constitution. People really need to look at it because, it's a massive thing at the mainstream political parties, the opposition political parties, and then the new opposition to the opposition. They all want constitutional change, but not one of them to date, as far as I've seen, will sit down with me and talk about constitution. Do you know?
That's it. Well, why do you think that they want to get rid of it? Well, we know, but why do you think this for people that don't know?
Because the Constitution in 1937 is where Ireland got ERA, should I say. It was officially named ERA after Eru, the goddess. And it's where the oath to the monarch was removed. And it's where we then became a nation.
Yeah.
And, and the people signed it into law. And it's law. All around Europe, it's written into the statute books everywhere that ERA is a sovereign independent state and it's a nation of people. And to have that written into law is very, very important. So if you remove that, you remove all your lawful rights when you're navigating with, people talk about the hate speech. Like if that comes at any man or woman in their full surname, how are they going to get out of that?
Yeah.
We have a constitution that will get you out of it right now. But if you lose your constitution and your nationhood, that's the reason we need to keep the constitution as Article 1.
There's a lot of countries. There's a lot of countries that don't have constitution. Do you know what I mean? They don't have what we have. Sure, they don't.
Yeah, I think there's only about 7 countries in the world that have, America being the first of them, independence as they call it, from the whole system. We talk about the crown establishment being, Rome, the Crown England, the City of London, and those places that have been legislating and enslaving us all. We're just the working slaves to corporations.
Yeah.
And over a period of since this constitution, 85 years, it's been legislated away from us by consent of the people. Unfortunately, we don't actually have a sitting government. That's the funny thing, We have Leinster House, but it's not the Irish government's government of Ireland, and they're only there for to do business and the legislature through that corporation. So we need to look at that and find a way of breaking that down totally.
When do you reckon they stopped being a government? Well, it been 2 years ago when the Free State thing finished, the 1922.
Well, look, no, I would say from the moment the Free State was established, and it was the walking out, the signing, and when it was voted in, the Free State, the signatures, people know the story about Michael Collins going over and signing it, and De Valera not wanting it, and De Valera not going, and he set him up and all that sort of stuff. But look, it was voted in Dáil Éireann, and it was a slight win for the Free State, and that's when De Valera walked out, and then there was a new Leinster House was built, and I think ever since then, the government, the laws that were done in this constitution have been there all the time, but we've been legislated out of it, even right through the Free State Constitution, because of the Free State, the treaty.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just been a fact that people just don't understand it. That's my reading of it, Mark. And people call constitution, all this sort of stuff. And
it's an act. That was an act, wasn't it? It wasn't even a constitution. It was an act that has it written on it.
Yeah, and it was an articles for agreement for a treaty as well. It was, but it was signed, and it is an international agreement. So there is provisions in the constitution that allowed for the commerce to be done.
Yeah.
With the UK crown.
There's a note as well there's a note to the king as well in it.
In the 1921 Free State Constitution, it was the monarch. That was what the Civil War was about. That was the breakdown of the original Dáil Éireann.
I actually heard it the other day, Rory. Someone mentioned that in the 1937 there's a note to the king. I couldn't find it. Even in Crow Gaelic, I couldn't. You know what I mean?
Whoever said that obviously hasn't read it.
It's ridiculous. Yeah, they haven't read it, yeah. They probably read the blue one. But if they haven't read it, yeah. It's ridiculous. I don't know where that came from.
I don't know myself, Mark, because I don't know. I really don't know because it's not there. They obviously haven't read the thing, you know. But
yeah,
the most important thing is to get the Clough Gaelic from it, which is important because there's 63 articles and they're the law. You know, and any law has to be done against the people, you know, and you have a right. So statutes, acts, and legislations aren't enrolled in the Office of the Irish Supreme Court as law, so therefore they're not law. They're just rules. They're bills. You know, they're signing in a bill. So we need to find a way for Irish people, you know, to understand who they are, first and foremost, because you're going to see it.
Find out who Bill is.
Sorry?
Find out who Bill is, this fucker.
Find out who Bill is, yeah. Find out who Bill is. So, yeah, look, what do you want to talk about? You know, we're trying to, you know, we're going around the country we've done a couple of presentations and we're in the courts doing it. We're talking about it and, you know, still we're 2 or 3 years into this craziness of people's awakening. What I've seen, you know, all my life, you know, we could always see the one side and the other. But now lots of people are seeing it, and the thing people are awake to that I can see mostly is that the state is corrupt. The state being the Free State or the Government of Ireland, state with a small s. ERA still exists. It's the name of the island. It's a constitutionally protected Irish Republic. And it is our independence and our nation that they're after. So yeah, look, it's about for me. The first thing you need to do is find out who you are and start using a name that doesn't connect you to that commerce when you're not using it. When you don't need to, like, do you know what I mean? Like, if you want to be a doctor or you want to be a bus driver or you want to go to work or whatever, you have to be prepared to step into that role and do it. That's what your citizenship is for. Yeah,
because I was only saying that to someone the other day about that. Like, you have to step in and out, but you're right to do that.
Well, that's called navigating. That's called learning to navigate the jurisdictions, you know, because you have dominion over all the jurisdictions. You're what they call in trust law is like a beneficiary. So in your national capacity, you're beneficiary. And then you're a trustor, which is you appoint trustees to do commerce for you, you know. So you select someone, appoint them to do your commerce, you know, and you're signing on a dole, you appoint whatever department it is, you know. But yeah, the Garda Síochána are just running 2 roles as well. You know, they understand, some of them at the higher level understand this, but they're also acting as policy officers. And that's the separation of powers, and people need to understand what the separation of powers are from lawful and legal.
They're just tied by legislation, aren't they? They're tied to, like, even if they wanted to change in a certain way, like they wanted to go with the people, they're kind of tied to legislation.
Well, you are if you you know, agree to contract with it, but you have a right to contract and not to contract with any legislation.
Well, if you're employed, though, you know what I mean. It's probably
well, if you're employed, you go by the rules of that company, and you give over your PPS number. So when you give your PPS number or your all caps name, either way, they're both connected to the social security number, which is then allows them to tax you and, you know, control it and take whatever out of their proportion out of it, and you just work in that. You're in that capacity then as a citizen for them few hours that you're in that job, and there's no way around that. Only not doing the job, or else understanding that when it's a 9 to 5, be prepared to do your citizenship from 9 to 5 and step out of it. You know, that's the way it works. You know, it's like a dual. Everybody has a dual, you know, nationality and citizenship, and we have a dual passport as well. We'll get on to that there now in a few minutes if you want to.
Yeah,
to show the difference.
Right. Yeah,
whatever. For your identification, because I seen a guy doing a video the other day. I'm sure you've seen that about, and he mentioned the passport, And he mentioned the all caps uppercase Ireland, and guards being registered in Dunbar Street, and all those things that he was right about. And that's the fact, Ireland, the name Ireland, because of the Free State, the treaty and the constitution, that incorporated Ireland, Southern Ireland, the name Ireland, and Northern Ireland.
So if we call ourselves Era, we're getting ourselves out of it. It's like a slave name.
Yeah, it's a slave name, yeah. And it's with the fodder, which was never recognised by the UK, but that's because they can't recognise our nationality. But we're in a time in history now there where the reason at that time as well, we lost the 6 counties, and that had to be signed over in that lease, which is a 99-year lease. If you look at Article 11, I think it is, of the Free State Constitution, was because the majority of people were Unionists in the north of the island, in those 6 counties, and therefore it allowed the English monarch to put a gun to their heads and allow them have that. But that's over now, and we're looking at a reintegration of the whole territory, and this is what they're doing in the background, and we need to just become aware of it, because your station's Era is called, and Era needs to become aware of what's happening.
Crazy time, crazy. So yeah, Bertie Ahern's looking to be president.
Bertie Ahern is looking to be president, yeah. And that's, if you look at...
After destroying the country, after doing what he did. I wonder did he get a bank account?
Did he what? Well, look, this is my understanding of it, Mark, for what it's worth. If you look at the prolonged, what they call the war, or, the IRA active in the north, or what they call Northern Ireland, the fictitious state, for all those years. And they switched it off at the Good Friday Agreement. They switched off the propaganda.
Yeah.
And they took the weapons away from each other. But the biggest thing they did, and Bertie Ahern was involved in that.
He was, of course.
Sinn Féin were involved in it massively. Mary Lou McDonald and Bill Clinton and Tony Blair, all those characters. Yeah. And it was agreed for this time.
That's a nice way of saying all those characters.
Yeah.
I'd have a different word for that.
That's what they are. We're all characters, we're all actors.
Yeah.
You act. But yeah, they like that Good Friday Agreement was a 30-year, I suppose, bond again. And they tried to remove Article 2 and 3, and they did out of the Blue Book. They changed it dramatically. So now they're down to Article 1. So that agreement, you remember Bertie Ahern coming out after it and saying, there's a possibility of a united Ireland in 30 years. And here we are. Sinn Féin signed it over. The political Sinn Féin, the political party, which aren't the original men and women of Dáil Éireann at all. It was all part of the agreement. Mary Lou will be Taoiseach. Bertie Ahern will be president. You can see that happening in the next. Well, you see Sinn Féin are the party holding the seat in their fictitious state, the north of the island, and soon to be the south of the island, and they'll be the party. And then this unity, what they're looking for, but back to this Ireland, this is what they're after, where we have a constitutional right to Era. And look, it's worrying if they get an all-Ireland vote. Like, if they're going to be in, let's say, by 2024, that's the predicaments, isn't it, for Sinn Féin down here, the next elections then. Probably around the world you'll see elections then. You're looking at, Republican getting back in. Republican, that's the word, Republican. Or nationalist.
Might as well
these
be
are the words they use.
Yeah, might as well be fucking handing out points.
Yeah, so, look, then you're looking at 2028 for treaty time. United Ireland Corporation. And that's what's coming. That's what they're pushing for. So we have those few years to stop that, because you're looking at an all-Ireland election, or a nationwide state plebiscite, or a referendum, whatever they're going to call it. And that could remove Article 1, and people will be looking for constitutional right. And within that, they're going to be looking at private property rights, because there's provisions for property rights in the Constitution and provisions for civil as well. That'll be removed. All the key articles that they're trying to remove. The big one at the moment they're using this article. We'll talk about Article 6.1. But the one that they're trying to really get rid of is nation. Article 1.
Yeah, that's it.
So
That's what's
that's
gone.
my understanding of what's happening with all these characters at the moment, and you can see it playing out in front of our eyes. But you can also see it falling in front of our eyes. It's been exposed more, but it's just total. I mean, I don't know how there are people awakening to it, and it's people awake at different times. Different things wake different
100%.
people up.
Well, going back to what you were saying with the protests, like there's a lot more people going to these protests. So
Yeah.
I know you don't really, you're not really one for the protest, but for me, I just see it coming together of people. So in that way, I see it's a good thing in that way, and then you can actually see, people waking up, like. So in that sense, it is
Yeah.
good. But
Well, it is good, and definitely, absolutely. The more times people get together, out and speaking to each other, and talking about stuff face to face in communities. I think it should start in communities, getting people in like your community groups and stuff, and getting like-minded people together to talk about stuff. But protesting is, unfortunately, it's a word that, look, it's a corporate thing. It doesn't mean anything. It's actually no lawful effect in any way. It doesn't mean you're rejecting anything. It means you're accepting that it is, but with protest. So it's not a way of bringing a stop to anything.
in all fairness, you don't call it protests anymore. They're vigils, or
Well, yeah, peaceful assembly, all
yeah,
those
peaceful
things.
assembly, yeah.
Yeah. But look, for me, and I don't mean, I genuinely, I am, in agreement with you that it's getting people together. But how long can people keep going out onto the street, marching to buildings and chanting and going home?
Yeah.
To me, people need to start bringing a message of something that's a viable solution. Do you know what I mean? And that's what I'm banging on about. And
It's a tough one, Rory, because
yeah,
we seen the anger, right, when we were in Fingers that time, right? We seen there's a lot
mm-hmm.
of anger, especially from the young, and some of them want to, like, I'm not going to mention, but some of them want to do other things, and then you've got people that want to try and peacefully do it. Then you've got on Bunrock, you want to do it through the law. So you've got all of these different angles, and it's sometimes one side would end up ruining the other side. You know what I mean? It's a tough one, isn't it? It's a
Yeah,
tough
it
one.
is. Yeah, it is, and it all plays into into their hands. Do you know what I mean? This
Yeah,
whole, I
yeah.
mean, you think that the people who are pulling the strings at the top of this knew this was coming. I mean,
Yeah.
it's on the streets of
They
England,
knew
it's
it was
on the
coming. Yeah,
streets,
yeah, yeah,
and it's dividing all the people. And then, like what you say, you had lads there who were genuinely looking for a row because they were angry, and justifiably so. And
yeah,
then you
yeah,
would have had infiltrators, probably that lad who grew up with the mask and said it burned them out.
yeah.
Probably
And
shouldn't have
they
been allowed to
played with
speak
that.
with a
The
mask
media
on.
played with that for ages. You know what I mean? The media played with that for ages. That one
Well,
just need to be
yeah,
took
that
away.
30 seconds summed up,
Yeah,
gave them the license, and maybe he was planted there to do that. Who knows? This is the thing we have to be careful about too.
yeah. It's the same
So,
the other day with the car nearly running over people, and there just happened to be a photographer there to go. You know what I mean? It's just unbelievable.
mm.
You can actually see it playing out, and I was seeing it playing out in real time. And I was going, "Fuck me!" Like this really does happen. It's mad. It's just, it's gone. It is a play. We're definitely in a play. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, and we're
Yeah,
playing into their hands. We're playing into their words, and we're playing into we're going around saying we're not far right and we're not this. Why would you bother saying that when you're
yeah.
not?
That's an
Do you know
American
what I mean?
term, isn't it? Yeah, it's an American term.
Concentrate on what you're doing and learn a way to ask the right questions. I don't get stopped anywhere by guards anymore, or I don't believe any of these statutes or bills or legislation that they're announcing are going to affect me anyway, so I don't even talk about them. But I see it
Yeah,
going to be affecting a lot of people, and those people who are going out saying they're protesting and that are saying stuff online and all that sort of thing about this, and are being branded far right and are having far right discussions. They're the ones that want to be careful here, and in that capacity with your surname, this is what they're after. You'd be summoned to court and issued fines and all that type of nonsense. So for me, we were delivering a message to these young people, and what I was trying to do was deliver a message to these young men and women and people of Finglas that there is other ways, to challenge,
Yeah.
Bring the guard, a Garda Síochána into line under oath. I mean, they have no oath. Like when a guard stops you for a driving offence or parking offence or any of these bills or acts, and they tell you they're a Garda Síochána and they show you their oath, they don't have an oath to the corporation. They don't have an oath to, like the Minister for Transport. So why are they stopping you for taxing your car and all this sort of stuff? But because you're engaging with them in that way, it gives them the power. So this is what we're trying to say to people, that we need to find a way. We're going to do our thing, of course, but we need to now start fighting then the bigger legislation, and that's how it's going to be done. The only way you're going to get justice, in my opinion, is inside the courts, in their arena.
Yeah.
I like to think, in my lifetime of experience, Mark, that there are good men and women within the Garda Síochána, within the system.
I well believe it. Yeah, there are. Yeah. There
And,
is.
and at the highest level, and that the only hope we have for justice, because that's where justice is. The judiciary of justice and judges is in the courts. And I know people are going to say, look, the Constitution doesn't work, but I haven't seen anybody using the Constitution correctly yet.
True.
Not many people.
How would you know it doesn't work if you never use it? Yeah, it is true, isn't it?
Or what other weapons do you have yourself? What's the other options? Protesting. Look, you talk about oaths there, and you talk about a company, and you talk about names, and you see people with all caps names, and corporations, which are political parties, looking to be what they say elected, which is to join this company.
Yeah.
You're joining a company, and to me it doesn't make sense. We need to find a way of evoking this constitution and then forming our own form of government, a lawful government.
Doesn't have to be the way they're doing it. Doesn't have to be like that.
No. Because unfortunately, even the voting register is all done in your social security number, your all caps. Yeah. So I think you have to sign. Not that I've ever done it, but you have to sign in your all caps name, because it's the corporation you're voting for. You're like, I suppose one way you're trying to select the new manager of Burger King, or the new staff of the company.
They don't see themselves as managers. That's the thing. They see themselves as rulers.
Well, yeah. Well, they are rulers. They are rulers of that corporation, but they're not rulers over you or I.
Yeah, I get you. Yeah.
A
lot of people get that confused.
Yeah, we unfortunately appointed rulers in Brazil. We talk about rulers because Article 6.1 is very important at the moment when you talk about rulers, because that's what they're using at the moment, which is common good, which was a word that only came out for corporations, and it's only really been used since 60s, 70s against the people, because in Article 6.1 all laws derive from God to the people, and then we appoint the rulers of the state, being the state era. But we give them a set of rules, which is this. And that's how you can navigate your way through law, through the Constitution, by being in that. When you're in a capacity as a national, you're in the territory era, and that's the jurisdiction you're in, and that's the language and the text and the grammar that you're using. Instead of your all caps name, then you're dealing with that state, which is Government of Ireland. So they then have their rules, and you're just a trustee to that. So you don't have any even say in it. Yeah. But we will. I firmly believe there's enough time. We've a few years, there's enough time for people to try and challenge this, and the right people do it. It can be stopped. And I'd say here in the era, we probably have as much of a chance as anywhere else to do it because of this constitution. Yeah. So what about yourself? How are you? Where are you with constitution or law? Have you? I know you've been on the group there and listening to stuff and doing a bit of learning, but have you tried using it yourself yet, or have you tried to evoke it in any situation? Or
what I want to do, I'd love to do. I'm relearning Gaelic. I'm relearning Irish, and then I'm going to try and convert it over. I'm kind of on that buzz, the language
Yeah,
side of things.
yeah.
I love it. I love writing it. I love putting it on posters. I love, that's why I'd be pushing on the channel a lot of stuff like that. But
Mm.
I'm a good lad, Rory. I don't break the law. I don't need the law. I
Well,
don't need the
none of
law
us
yet.
do. None of us
Yeah, well,
do.
that's
No,
it.
and no,
We shouldn't.
there's not many
Yeah,
people out there breaking the law,
yeah,
but they're breaking the rules.
yeah.
And if you're in a capacity to be ruled and you're breaking the rules, well, then you consented to it. Do you know what I mean? And this is the thing we need to learn.
But
We
I
need
just
to
want to be
find a
left
way of.
alone. Just want to be left
Say
alone to
again.
grow my garden, play music. That's
Yeah,
all I want to do.
yeah, I know. Yeah,
Uh,
that's
Unbelievable.
that's all anybody wants to do, really. Do you know what I mean? None of us want to have this world that we have now of
No,
unsurety. You
no,
know,
this is not a good world at all.
all my life I used to words mean a lot to me, Mark, because as you know, I was branded as a slow learner in school, and then later in life dyslexia, and then someone else had suggested I had autism, and I couldn't read or write until I was about 30, in my mid 30s, 39, before I really started to understand. But it was to find out the meaning and definition of words
Yeah,
was the only way I could do it. And now I write and I learn different words every day before I'd even say a word. And
that's
it's the
good. Yeah.
small little words that mean so much.
So you'd
You
appreciate
know,
words, wouldn't
say no is the biggest, hardest word to say and to accept. But the word safe, getting back to that one, I remember learning that word and going, wow, what could you put before it? Do you know what I mean? And then along came COVID and they used the word stay before it,
you? Yeah, yeah,
stay safe. And the
yeah.
psychological thing for me, and that is the only thing people were learning was stay. Everyone was staying and standing on fucking yellow
It was an
boxes
order.
in shops and staying at
It's
home
basically,
and staying
yeah,
everywhere.
yeah. It was an order. It was like we're in charge and we're telling you to stay home, keep the mask on. It's an order, and
Yeah,
everyone like idiots did it. Like they just kept fucking. You know what I mean? Just
they
well, they
didn't
should have
only
said like
do it;
what?
they were
Yeah,
quoting it. This
yeah,
virtual signaling, as people call it, quoting
yeah,
the stay safe or to follow the signs or this type of nonsense. So it's all wordplay. But I remember when we came out of the court the third time when we were in Wexford in court, and that was the flag thing. Do you remember that?
yeah, yeah,
The pulling, taking the European flag and all down, a bit of
yeah.
crack. And we went back down to a place in Wexford, and I was sitting there, and I remember looking at the Constitution and thinking about the way the court went, and it made me feel safe. So I remember saying that I told this story about the word safe. So to feel safe is very, very important. And the thing
Real
about
safe.
Irish men and
Yeah,
women
real
at the
safe.
moment, the biggest problem we have at the moment is I don't know many people that do feel safe.
No, not safe. It's not safe, and no, it's getting. I'm hearing people actually coming on they're talking to themselves with it on the chat thing, and like they're talking about like their kids arming their kids with sprays and all like that. I never thought I'd see that. I never thought I'd see
Yeah,
that in life. It's
mm,
horrible. Giving their
it
teenage
is.
kids like fucking things to carry around, like that's terrible. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
should be feeling safe. You know.
Mm. Get back to, I think, is if we can understand our constitution and your capacity as Irish national, a way forward rather than protest. I would reject everything that they do. But my thing now is to get small groups and communities together and call in local politicians and call in members of An Garda Síochána and let's start asking questions and get answers. What guarantees, because they're legislating this in Leinster House and you're being legislated against in your all caps name, and the guards don't want to do this, but they have to do it because it's not being challenged.
Yeah.
So maybe we can get a few meetings with these people and stop the whole divide. I know there are the crazy people out there that there's no talking to or communicating or debating with, but these people are there to make us feel safe. That's their ultimate duty.
They're not talking to
Keep
people. That's the whole point, Rory. They're not talking to people. None of them are. They've tried, They've tried to talk with people, but they just won't talk to them. So where'd you do? What would you do there? Is there a way like we could make them
Well,
you know what I
look,
mean?
I suppose the way I'm seeing it now is, and I suggested it in Finglas that night, but look, we haven't got back around to it yet, but hopefully somewhere we'll do it soon. I was trying to get something going in my own community here, and what we're going to try and do is get a group of the community, the people, together,
Yeah.
and come to, and then everybody knows who everyone is in the room, and then invite your elected TDs and members of An Garda Síochána and have a seat there for them, and keep inviting them until they come, and they have to eventually listen to the people, and get them to a table and they go, because yes, when you're out talking to them on the street and you're protesting in your citizenship capacity, they're not even recognising you as a man or woman.
No.
You're looking at a man standing in a uniform with all caps Garda on it, who is acting as a policy officer. He's not there to do anything else, only protect the corporation.
Yeah.
So his duty for the day, his role for the day, it's like, the new manager of Burger King tells one woman to cook chips and the other one to make the burgers. That you can't, that's the role for the day that you're in. So I suppose when you get a superintendent, or not even superintendent, maybe inspector is probably the best, to try and invite them to a table, because it has to happen. I mean, the country's never going to function right again until the people and the members of the judiciary, the judges, and especially in Garda Síochána, come together in some way to protect the people.
They just don't trust them. The trust is gone. Like people just don't trust them anymore. And that's
yeah, but look, certainly COVID was a massive letdown from what I've seen with people. But I mean, the best of people, Mark, fell for COVID.
Yeah.
Because it was a health thing.
That's
and the guards, genuinely, from what I could see, most of them thought they were doing the right thing. They were protecting people's health.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, that's being exposed as the fraud that it was.
Yeah, they're still
and now
doing
this is happening.
Yeah.
You have to think that it's their opportunity now as well, just as much as anybody else. There's people there that still believe COVID exists, or still believe they had it, or they get it, or the virus, and now they're out protesting against migrants.
Yeah.
That's fair enough, German. That's their beliefs. So
well,
something has to make
they're
a
not
crack with these men.
protesting. No, they're not protesting against migrants. Let's just we fix that. They're protesting against undocumented migrants.
Well, undocumented migrants, yeah.
There's a
Undocumented
difference.
migrants.
There's a difference,
Undocumented men and women, or men mostly coming into our territory. And again, it doesn't matter the colour.
No, it
black,
doesn't. No.
white. I could say I'm black.
Yeah.
And people would say, how can you say you're black? And, well, my DNA is black, which is my hair. And I've quite a lot of it. It's probably more black DNA in my body than anything else. So don't get caught up in that black-white colour thing. It's back to that. We don't feel safe because there's undocumented men and women, mostly men, coming in to land in usually what you can see is working class or rural towns and villages around the country.
They're not in the rich. They're not in the rich places anyway. That's for sure.
No, they're not. I stayed in Greystones here with my partner last night, and I'm from Bray, and there's 3 hotels in Bray full, and there's one or two nursing homes as well. And you walk down the Bray seafront, and you wouldn't think you're in Ireland, a bit like O'Connell Street type of thing, which is I suppose it is what it is. And then I went for a walk here in Greystones today, and it was the complete opposite. And I was walking down by the old church, and even massive big convent, derelict buildings there, and I was saying, you don't see any illegal, unlawful, potentially dangerous men being put into these places. It doesn't happen. And coincidentally, it's the home of Simon Harris and Stephen Donnelly and these people,
yeah.
So
they had to be catch somewhere, didn't they? Yeah. I just don't know. I just don't know what we're gonna do. Seriously, it's just one of those things. What we got, like.
Yeah, keep your mind, keep your own head. Do the work on yourself. Do your work on yourself. Do a few ceremonies and keep yourself well and keep concentrating and finding something that works for you. but trying to get people together under an understanding of the tools that we can use to defend ourselves against what's happening. You know, they done it. Let's face it, people say, a lot of people didn't take the vaccine. I would like to think up to 1 million in the whole island, north, east, south and west. But a lot of us got stopped going into places. A lot of us got stopped moving around. I didn't, but a lot of people did, you know, and were restricted. So when they introduce these new bills and legislation, if you don't, and I don't care what anybody listening to this chat says, if you don't correct who you are, that's going to affect you. You will be done under that bill. You will be sued for online, whatever they want to call it. They will tell you what you're actually intending to do by your speech. This is what they're doing, you know. So it's going to happen, and look, I suppose that's the message I'm trying to give to people.
Do you want to take a couple questions, or are you all right?
Yeah, well, you know, of course, yeah. That's what I came on, because I know you were on earlier, and sometimes I would make a comment or say something, and people would get offended by it.
No, look, Rory, you know,
no, let me finish. People get offended by what I'm saying, and that's fair enough. Yeah. Because people get offended by the truth quite a lot. I did myself many times in my life. You know, I remember learning this and thought I was the bees and knees, and I was meeting this fella who had been at it a bit more than me. We were having a conversation on the phone, and he was tearing lumps out of me. You know, and I just had to take it because I knew he was right.
We learn from each other.
And the world we live in at the moment, you see it on one side, this psychologically, mentally ill people who want to cut pieces off their arms off and create cocks and all that sort of shit. You know, you can't offend anybody anymore. What's an offence? Offence against the state? What's an offence? What are you offended about? So, look, ask the questions, but open it up. And I never mean to offend anybody, but I just
I know that. Yeah. No, I know that. That's why I approached it the way I did. I know that.
Yeah, I know, fair enough. And it's after leading us to be here tonight. And I hope there are people on that want to ask questions.
I'm kind of glad I haven't, because I get to talk to you, brother. You know what I mean?
Well, there you go.
Get to talk to you again.
Yeah. And I was on a ceremony all weekend, so I'm nice and cool and calm.
Folks, I just want to say, if you're coming on, just be aware that we're live. So I just want to protect me, and I want to protect Rory. So, you know, it's all right, you coming in and no one knows who you are, but they fucking know who we are. So just be aware of that. Right, folks. Who do I have? I'll bring Deborah in because she's been waiting a while. Deb's, you're live there. Deborah? Hello?
Hi, how are you?
How are you?
Hi,
live.
Hi, Rory. It's Deborah. How are you?
How are you?
Just a couple of points. Obviously, I would have seen in the group what you posted, and so I'm glad that MJ invited you, because the questions that I have is, the first one is, as citizens, and we go out protesting 100%. I get where the wording is, but it's not. It has nothing to do with the Constitution. The fact that these unvetted men are coming into the country, we're out on the streets for safety purpose, and it has nothing to do with politics whatsoever. It's to do with the safety of our children, of the women of Ireland, and eventually the men as well. Now, I'm not Irish, so I know, because I'm half French and I'm half Dutch, and I know what these men are capable of.
Mm-hmm.
And so when we're out there, I think it's more, we're bringing light to everybody, because it's very important that the people that are worried know that they're not on their own and everybody else is thinking like them. You know?
Yeah. I suppose I hear what you're saying. I do. It's not constitution. It's not political. It certainly is political. And it's been legislated.
No, it's political only because the politicians have made it political, because they've tried to use jurisdictions and legalese against us. But we're not doing that, so we're not responding in that same fashion.
Yeah, I know that, but my point about the citizenship and the protesting, it has no lawful or even legal effect on it at all, and because they're legislating for it, So what I'm saying is to take down the foreign language signs and to do it in a capacity as national and to reject all of this legislation.
How do we do that then?
I'm not saying don't get out onto the streets, don't gather in groups, don't, what I'm saying is a group of people getting together is a wonderful thing, but it's the action that you take. What benefit is it getting from walking up the street or walking up to a building and chanting out, 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 or whatever it is people are shouting? I think there's more in learning a way of.
I think where we are now is, Rory, is we're 3 years down the line, and I mean, we've written letters, we've stood outside the door, I personally spent my lifetime making phone calls, asking questions, being sent on the runaround to all the departments in the Dáil, and I get basically sent from left, right to centre to Department of Justice, Department of Equality. It's nobody understands, or nobody can give an answer as to how the organised human trafficking is happening, but I can't get an answer on why it's happening. So, like what I'm saying to you is that we're in a situation now where everyone's exhausted. So they've been left with nothing else to do and then take the streets. They've declared war onto the people. That's unconstitutional. No.
It is, certainly.
Now,
that's why we want to use the Constitution to use it as a tool in a way to reject all of it, because it's been legislated for under emergency. It's all been done under emergency measures. That was the COVID. Put us under emergency wartime or emergency health, all this sort of stuff.
EUA, yeah.
But there is no emergency here in ERA. And it's very important that we take down the all caps Ireland signs and we start referring to the state as ERA and using the law of the land. And I know you're not Irish, and that's fine, but there is an Irish law that we can use to try and stop this legislation. And it didn't happen, and it was an unfortunate thing. It didn't happen with the COVID legislation and, the people going outside their 5K rules and all that. No one used it. So hopefully when this legislation does come at somebody, we can use the Constitution and other stuff like that to bring it down. But I don't disagree with people getting together. I just think there should be, the fact that people are doing that now, there could be something more productive rather than the same old. Yeah, you said we stood outside all these places, and I did too. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying I never attended any protests, but I just realised that it's not doing anything, and it's time for something else, and it's time for another way. And we believe this is a way. This is a viable solution to do it. That's all I'm saying. I'm not knocking anybody to protest, but it's the language, the wording, what's written on the boards. If it's, believe it or not, if it's written in all caps,
I know,
without any spaces and all that stuff, that they can't even see it.
But even the black, I know it's a dead entity. I know the all caps and the whole thing. It's just it's they laugh at us with the boards. I'm fully aware of that.
That's unfortunately, yeah, that's the truth. Thanks.
Thanks, David. Is that it?
Thank you.
Is that it? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I actually have just one more question. How do you think the unborn Rachta can actually make a difference? And because it's so, as sovereign beings, we live under natural law, so we can't have two masters, right? So we then obey under the unborn Rachta, but we live by natural law. So what is it exactly? Like, because sovereignty is natural law, really.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, that's correct. Yeah. Well, the only thing that recognises we the people is Article 1. The rest of the Constitution from Article 3 just gives you the name of the state and the functions.
Yeah.
The mechanics, and then the jurisdictions of the state and their rules. So basically what we'd say to them when they come with their statutes and acts and legislation, especially on Garda Síochána, who have an oath to the Constitution, not an oath to the Minister for Transport or the Minister for Health to enact all this so-called legislation. Or even, I would say, the Minister for Justice. And that's what I'm challenging at the moment. You know, the Justice Acts, they're all for persons too. So basically the Constitution just affirms your rights. It just says it. I mean, it's written in the article of the Irish Constitution. It's the nation and the people and our inalienable sovereign rights. The rest is just their rules that they're breaking. And it has to be done through the court system to challenge the legislation. So that's how we could use it.
Okay, thanks for that.
Thank you.
No worries. Thanks for your questions.
Thanks, MJ.
No worries. Right, folks, anyone else want to ask a question? Put your hand up. All right, there we go. Philip, I haven't heard Philip in a while. How's it going, Philip? You're live.
How are you, Mark? How are you, Rory?
How's it going, Phil? Jeez, I haven't seen you in a while. I was asking for you the other day.
I know. I seen that. Sorry, my old health has been the best of late. But yeah. What about referendum? You know, do we not have the right to choose our own form of government? What can we do on that front?
Yeah, referendum would certainly do it. You know, the people can call a referendum. There are provisions somewhere inside the Irish Constitution. I know they were removed from the Free State Constitution by the Blue Shirts, Fine Gael, back in the day. But unfortunately, the whole ministerial system is Blue Shirts at the moment. Even Sinn Féin are Blue Shirts. Fianna Fáil, as you can see, they're Blue Shirts. But anyway, referendum, yeah, definitely would be a way, Philip. But we don't have enough people. A referendum on what? A referendum to, we're already sitting on ERA, a referendum to remove the government and to have our own form of government would be a massive way of doing it. But it's getting a people to agree to that or to understand it or to know what it is, and that's going to take a bit of time. You know, are we a month, are we a year, are we 10 years away from this unfolding? Are we 20 years? Who knows? But the way forward is to remove Leinster House and any of its authority, because it's deriving its authority from outside the jurisdiction of the land here, ERA. And believe it or not, we're being legislated by the UN, you know, and all that stuff, and we're not even part of Europe.
Yeah.
So great point. Referendum is.
How could we go about that? Like, what do we need? You know, I'm kind of. You know, I've been out protesting for the last couple of years, and like you say, you know, you're standing out there, empty buildings, nothing's ever really changing, is it? You know what I mean? What do we need to get a fucking referendum? Like,
yeah, good question. If I had the answers to that, I'd fucking get you one. Believe me. Well, yeah, this is the frustrating thing for me. Is you look at political parties, they're all talking down the Constitution. None of them are talking about a referendum to remove Leinster House or to not even acknowledge Leinster House. Why would you even, you know, they're not governing you or I. All right, they're doing legislation and acts. So to not even take it down, to remove it and to have some sort of referendum of people that don't want to go in there, that want to, like what you say, we have a right to choose our own form of government. And maybe get a group of people of an understanding that are capable of doing it. Because the reason we're in this state at the moment, if you look back to the days of the treaty and the Free State, we didn't show that we had the capability of running our own country at the time. And that's what ended us up. So we need to get, I suppose, a group of people to select a new government based on this constitution. You know, back into Mansion House. Maybe that sort of thing would work, yeah. Maybe that could be or should be a future that people should be looking for. You know.
Well, we need the government needs to be halved anyway. We don't need that many ministers. No doubt about it.
Yeah. I mean, they're a provisional government and have been a provisional government since, 2022, 1922. Thanks, Philip.
Cheers, Phil. Thank you. Yeah, another question or?
I've always just been wondering about why the Constitution was changed. I know in 1939 you had Second World War and state of emergency, but wasn't it De Valera's government that did that? Why was that?
Well, look,
Question.
good question.
It is a good question.
It's a great question. You look at De Valera and Michael Collins done this and De Valera done that, and all the stories you can talk about both men. And he was a great statesman. There's no doubt both of them were.
Both of them, yeah, 100%.
But we have to look at what we have now rather than what happened. Why did he sign it? Well, obviously, UK, England won the war as such. They got the weapons and they got the finance and they won the war. And that meant they had the majority here as well. And at the time, we were coming into a whole new financial system, Federal Reserve banking system, all into the 1940s. And they, I suppose, agreed to let them have the commerce, which is the citizenship. And we would hold the law on the land, which would be our Garda Síochána, would be able to arrest an Irish man or an Irish woman in law for committing a crime or that sort of thing. But then all the legislation was handed over to the Crown, and they published the Constitution in 1942 that was just fully incorporated. So it was only a business book, and we sort of, people just fell for it. I said, well, but they did keep the Constitution, but I suppose it was part of Ireland era at the time were broke. They didn't have much international trade. All to do with that, Philip, I'd say. And you have to remember, all of these men were politicians at the time. And I'd say none of them perfect. But, it doesn't matter about the stories or what you want to believe or who said what or what religion they were. You see people, he was a Jew, she was the Jesuits, and it was Catholics. There was a Catholic Jesuit, at the time, and he was a Catholic. And it doesn't matter. What's important is, what are we left with? What's the enrolled, lawful documents? What is the rule of law on the land?
And it says, for one, it says any other constitution is repugnant to our constitution. So in a nutshell.
Yeah. In a nutshell, yeah.
So you can't have another fucking constitution with our constitution. It has it fucking written in this. That's the way I look at it.
Well, it does have it written in it, yeah. It does.
Yeah.
And it's all there. It's all inside it. I mean, there's PDFs.
Now we have two of them.
There.
We have two constitutions away from that. Like, who fell asleep at the wheel?
Yeah, well, who fell asleep at the wheel? Like you talk about, I suppose, who fell asleep at the wheel. It wasn't really falling asleep. This has been going on for, I don't know how many years. Clough Gaelic being Irish font, Irish text, our grammar and our laws are written, and there's only such a size of an alphabet. So it was removing the language from the people over, I don't know how many hundreds of years. You talk about 100 years ago, you go back 150 years ago, they were banning this language from schools. So it was a whole system of teachings then, and people got taught this all caps stuff, and people believe that if you put all caps on a page, it says you're shouting. It doesn't. To me, it says you're dumb, because that's what it does mean. It's a sign language. It's recognised as a sign language. It's in the Chicago Manual of Styles as a foreign language, comes under foreign language as sign language. And all that stuff has been taught to us in like, as I said, I didn't go to school that much, but I'm 47 now, and back then I think they were even teaching. So back in 1942, they produced a constitution that removed their text, and they read it in Roman font and English font, and that's all we got taught in schools. Yeah. So everybody's, yeah.
That's what I learned, yeah.
That answering, Philip?
Yeah, no, I'm not too concerned, because you've proven that the 1937 is the rule of law, in a court with the harp and the symbol of era. So, you know, I don't really care about the 1942. It was always bugging me. I thought maybe it was Fine Gael that changed it. But then, you know, I realised that it was the Fianna Fáil government that did it. And they had a
Yeah,
majority,
it
you know.
was, and
It
I've
was
seen a
always,
lot of the meetings. You know, you can look at all this is readable. You know, all the archives, but we have a lot of the literature. You know, the minutes of the Dáil Éireann, the 1919 to 21. But we also have the minutes of when they were talking about this emergency wartime measures. And in our constitution, the war has to be within the state.
Yeah.
So when they produced the big amendment that they made, which was the first fraud, the First Amendment, they changed the definition of war to be a war in another state. Let's say in the future, it actually says this in the future, UK would be at war in the Middle East, you know, or in Eastern Europe or somewhere like that. And it's all there. So they changed the definition of war, but even in their own speeching at each other, they admitted that they knew what they were doing was illegal. So then they brought in legislation to say that they couldn't be sued for it. So
Unbelievable,
it's crazy. So they know it's illegal, and they're doing it ever since then, because it was the only way they could bring back the commerce from our constitution gave us a nationality, but also gave us a citizenship. That was to be a citizen of era, which is this one here. And that's a guide through your constitution, the citizen manual. I'm going to get a PDF, put that up on Bunrock in the next few days, actually, for people. It's very important.
Yeah.
So they needed to take away our commerce, and that was to trade over a citizenship. And I think that's what they done in the 42 constitution. And that was like we were semi-incorporated. It was a pale blue book. And then 1948, in the Republic of Ireland Act, you know, we were allowed to change the name, call it Republic of Ireland. That's all. 26 county Republic of Ireland. And we actually became more incorporated by that. Yeah. Fully incorporated into our personalship. Yeah. So that was trade deals. We were all traded, you know, we're commodities to people, our resources, all that stuff. Anyone else? Any questions?
Are you finished there, Phil, or you okay with that?
Yeah, thanks.
No worries,
cheers, mate. Sorry.
I'll see you next week. I'll see you next year, will I?
See you next year, Philip.
No, please, God.
Philip's been around for a while.
I know he has. I just missed him. I hadn't seen him in a while, yeah. Anyway, let's have questions there, folks. Buddy. Cheers. Thanks, Phil. Oh, don't be afraid to ask a question.
Questions get answered.
That's it. Yeah, it's getting crazy.
Nobody
now,
wants to know anything. Everybody's sound. Everyone knows everything.
Yeah, we just assume that, you know. Yeah, do you just know the questions for you? Oh no, hold on. We have someone. We have a Damien. Damien, you're live there, Rory.
Hello. Oh, hi, lads.
Hi, Damien.
How are you doing?
Rory, Mark, thanks for the chat tonight. I just have, I suppose, maybe two questions, but the first one is,
I can't hear.
Rory, would you mind telling me the process of what you go through, maybe, or what somebody might go through in the courts when they go in?
Well, firstly, presenting yourself into a court.
Well,
first and foremost, to go to a court, you have to be summoned. Sorry, Damien.
Can you hear me?
The bad line, yeah.
I think he said something. It's starting off representing yourself or something, is it?
Protest. Well, the first thing people need to understand is to go to a court, you must be summoned to a court. You know, the Garda make arrests. That's their job. And then their duty, courts are like banks, believe it or not. It's their job then to try and bond you to get a summons to court. So if you don't have a summons, you shouldn't go to court at all. So it depends on what's on the summons and how you deal with the court, Damien. But ask me the question again and I'll get more of it. I didn't really get what he meant by...
Yeah, I kept breaking up. You still there, Damien? Damien, you still there? You're breaking up. Do you want to come out and come back in and I'll put you back on?
Yeah, lad, sorry, I was having to...
Right, he come back. If he comes back on, I'll let him on. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Of
course, why not? But yeah, it's if anyone else wants to come in there, getting arrested is the thing to understand, you know. Or what capacity do you first and foremost engage with a guard or with anybody else, you know? The first thing they need to do is ask you your name. Or give me your name, basically. They're trying to get you to give them a name. And in the Criminal Justice Act, which is an act for personages, they have the right to ask a person their name. So it's careful what information you give them, you know. I would always say Rory-Brian. I wouldn't give them my name, but I mean, if you want to refer to me as Rory-Brian. But very important then is they'll ask you for an address, which is a big question. They'll ask, these are the first two questions they ask, and I would say I don't have an address. Then they come along and they usually say, where do you live? And you can answer that way. You can answer that question several different ways, you know. People like to live in their body, or I always say era. And then what part? All of it, you know.
All of it.
So you've given them, you know, a name. That's their, you know, you've answered. You know, you shouldn't ever refuse, because again, refusal. So try and deal with it without actually getting there, and then if you do, be unfortunate enough to get dragged into a station. That's where it all starts before you get to court.
Damien, do you want to come back in there with your question? Sorry, Rory.
Yeah, go ahead.
You're still open there, Damien. Do you want to come back in?
Yeah, I suppose you were explaining it there anyways. Yeah, but being brought into the station and stuff. So, like, yeah, if you want to maybe continue from there.
Yeah, I mean, you're brought into a station, and you're brought in the name you're giving them. So if I give them, you know, Rory-Brian, family of Adamson, or Rory-Brian, Irish National, whatever it is, that's who's being brought to a station. And then you're logged, or you're charged, or you're whatever you're done, and you're fingerprinted. They make you hold a sign if that's ever happened to anybody. And what do you hold? You know what? I wouldn't hold anything, but I the last time it happened to me, I wrote :Rory-Brian on the sign and stood there, and you know, then in that capacity you're in, they then have to summons you to court. And they can't summons an Irish national to court under any of this legislation. So if you've been summoned to court, you're being summoned to court in your corporation, all caps name. So it's a separation of powers for you, first and foremost, to get in there. And that's what we done actually the other day in the CCJ. One of our friends, one of our patrons was up on and it was up for a hearing, and we needed to get that changed because he only recently sacked the solicitor. So our goal was to get him he was presenting himself. You present yourself to a court not on a general appearance. After that, you have to come in under a special appearance. I would even go as far as to say, instead of appearance is another, you're appearing, but divine appearance, and you lodge your paperwork in, and we did, and we got into the clerk on the day, and we got his statement. You know, you don't ask questions in court, you make statements, and then you ask questions. So we got his paperwork in front of the judge, and he presented himself, and the solicitor was sacked, and he changed the name. So now the guards have to amend the charges. That was one of the orders the judge made, to put his correct Christ name on the thing, which they can't do. So it's correcting the name. Get back to the dictionary on the charge sheets, or not the charge sheets, should I say, the summonses, because in law, as a national or a man or a woman, to be brought to court, you must be summoned by the DPP. The guards have no role or act to play in it. So does that answer your question, or do you want to add to it, Damien?
Yeah, that's great, thanks. And I suppose as well that if the I'm trying to say, I'm sorry, no lads, I'm trying to put this the right way.
Okay.
So, like, basically, and like, if somebody goes in and says that, first ask what crime has been committed. Has there been a crime committed? And then the judge will say, well, yeah, there's been a crime committed. Like, what is the crime and who's bringing the case? And then the judge will say, the DPP is bringing the case. And then somebody could say, well, who might you represent? Is that not a conflict of interest?
Who might the judge represent? Well, in a court, right, in all the legislation and in the all caps name, the judge is what they call an administrator, right? Then the guard, they're like their duty is like they're the executor. And then you have a trustee being the clerk in front of you, and you're the beneficiary. So the first thing the guards or the DPP need to do is get a bond, get you to be that person. And as soon as you acknowledge that you are, you hand your beneficiary over to the judge, and then they will do the accounts then, as you've handed your beneficiary role over to them, and they become the beneficiary. So it's like a banking system. Courts, they're very similar, or churches or whatever. It's the same sort of scenario. So I mean, why would you be going into the court in the first place, in that capacity? The only reason you would be is if you've given them that name.
So if somebody used to say before the bond is signed or whatever, that they say that they only sign it under duress, have they given their power over by doing
Well,
that?
it depends what name they put on it. You will still you wouldn't say, did you sign a bail? Is it a station bail or a court bail?
If a station bail was signed, and the signature was under duress, not an actual name.
Under duress. Well, technically it removes it from the page or whatever under duress, because there are provisions in the DPP or the Garda's role not to make you sign anything under duress. But the fact you've signed it, don't ever say I signed a bail bond. You could say you signed a bail note and it was under duress, but they will probably then issue a summons to a court to that name, and then you need to go in to the court. That name will be called, unfortunately, and then you have to appear to challenge the name first and foremost, because that's the big thing. That's the lock, the bond. And if there is a bond, automatically you're in trust law, remember. So if there's a bond, you're in civil. And to challenge that. So this is what we done the other day in the court, is correct the name, and now it'll be up to the DPP to issue charges in the man's name rather than the corporation, and it's going to be the way out of it for him, and hopefully it's going to work for anybody else. So if the situation you're in, Damien, that's what you do, is correct the name, correct what grammar is written on the page, and don't recognise that all caps name on a summons. But if you're in a court, you need to get the paperwork, needs to be in right. You need to send in your appearance, that you're appearing, and a special appearance, and put a statement in it, the fact, and make sure it gets in the judge's hand.
What happened in my case was I said that I was that basically I reserved all my rights. I basically stood up and said I reserved all my rights and all that jargon. And then I asked who was the what was the crime and who was bringing the case and who did the judge represent. But I was surprised, because when I said that, the judge kind of got caught and
Yeah.
didn't know where to look. And it's like she wasn't used to being challenged like that. And then she really kind of looked down at the clerk, and she adjourned it for 3 months.
Very
So
good.
now I'm wondering what to do kind of next.
Well, was there a summons from the DPP, or was it the guards? You know, because the guards, they're acting as the DPP as well when they're issuing or delivering summonses.
Well, first it went to the solicitor, but I fired the solicitor then, so I got full disclosure, but I didn't actually see any summonses. But the summonses would have gone to the solicitor.
Right. Well, then don't go to court unless you get a summons. And what you do then is you can write to the DPP, find whoever is allocated in the DPP who's supposedly has this alleged summons, and unless you get because in law it's the DPP that summons you to court. If the DPP haven't summoned you to court, it's only a civil. So go after the DPP then now and ask them to issue you, or is there a summons there, and what name, but correct obviously yourself.
Okay, and could that summons, or does it have to be? Can I request it to be in Clo Gaelic?
Yes.
Okay.
There's a couple of articles you can quote there. Article 8, Article 25.4 and 25.5. Yes, it is in the provisions of the Constitution, because if you're an Irish national, it's your national first principle official text, and any crime or anything that's to be issued to you has to be lawfully issued to you in both languages. If it's one language on its own, it's only for business. So yes, you can. That's a big one. That's another thing we're going to be trying to establish in the courts too. But yeah, my answer to that is yes, you can.
That's great, lads. Listen,
So
thanks. I don't
if
want to
there
take
is a
up any more of
guard,
your
is there a
time.
guard that you know of? Sorry, Dane, before you go, there's obviously a guard involved in this, is there?
Yeah.
Well, maybe you can contact him or his superior and ask him for the name of the who's operating in the DPP, and now remember, the guards are only the witnesses for the DPP. I wouldn't engage too much with them, but they should give you the name of the prosecution in the DPP, and then request summonses from him in your national capacity. You probably won't see them.
Okay. Thanks, lads.
But don't go to court
No
again
worries.
unless you get a summons.
Thanks for your
Brilliant.
question,
Okay.
Danny.
It does, and thanks, lads. Listen, cheers.
Cheers, thank
Take
you.
care.
Thanks for tuning in. Just Rory, I was just looking went on the channel there, and there's a lot of people that they were finding it hard to get on. Like they were saying, like they feel like they've been censored or something. But like, I'm not censoring anybody. It's not me. Now, I'm at the sending the link there, and even a few of our lads on Bone Rock said to try to get on as well, and they can't.
Right.
But I don't know. I'm at to send the link there and ask them to click that, but they're going fucking ape shit, and I blame me. I don't know. It's not to me. You know what I mean? So
I don't know why that is.
we're being attacked. You don't want the information getting out.
Well, yeah, absolutely not.
It's crazy, isn't it? It's just that's the way we live now. It's just like all we're having is a normal conversation. Two free men in area having a conversation about our constitution.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Bringing awareness to it. That's a pity now, yeah, but I don't know.
Yeah.
What can we do? Because there's nothing we can do to fix that. I don't know. I'm not.
I'm trying. I was like, I sent them the message, and there's a few of them saying it's like they're being censored, but it's something to do on my side. I just want to put it out there. I'm not blocking anybody. I want everybody on, you know.
At least we don't have to listen to them, huh?
Yeah. Not coming in with the hard questions.
Or they don't have to listen to us.
Oh yeah.
That's a pity, yeah.
So what's it like where you are? Like what's the situation like in Wexford? Is that what you said?
No, well, I'm from Bray. I'm stopping in Bray at the moment, and I still have the property in Wexford. Yeah.
Yeah.
What's it like? It's the same as anywhere else because of
Right.
that conditioning that people have been given. That's the word. People are so conditioned.
Yeah.
But look, it is changing. You know, and I get a lot of support now, and I get a lot of people where when I was fighting with my mother's case and I had all that, and I took the state, I nearly had them. You know, I really did. I felt it. I took the COVID on. And people thought I was absolutely crazy. Even my own family then, because of what I was doing. Because of this is health, and I know a lot of different types of men and women, and some tough people, and some people that would have been fighting the system in all sorts of different ways all their lives, and including in the banks and, criminal, all that sort of stuff. And when COVID came along, it just got everybody. But now I see a difference, that there is people realising that the world's fucked, and you're right, and you get a lot of support for it now. I do anyway. But I just travel around freely. I do everything that I talk about here or in life. I don't, I don't drive anymore. I travel in my private conveyance. I don't have registered vehicles. I have automobiles, and I don't engage with the system very, very little. If I want to probably go on a holiday now, I might use my passport then, my citizenship. But other than that, I don't. I don't claim any benefits. I don't do anything because that's the way I decided to do it. But
See,
if I
I
needed
get
to,
that.
I would.
That point I get, like, if you're going outside, like, I know there's people coming in and they have no documents, right? But I get that if you're leaving the country and you're going somewhere else, you'd want to have some sort of document to say, I'm Éireann Éig, I'm from, or I'm Éireannach and I'm from part of the Éireann Éig and I'm from Éire. So I get that, but going around your own country shouldn't need anything. You know what I mean?
No.
Going around your own land shouldn't need anything.
You still have this is where we can talk about the passport for a few minutes if you want, because our passport is a dual nationality, and the Clo Gaelic version inside that, I know it's backwards there or whatever, but people can see it. Better hold that number up. Anyway, it's an old one for someone else. But in that first page there, Mark, the Clo Gaelic version of that embodies your freedom of movement and your free national to travel from point A to point B anywhere on this island. That's your national. And then you have your citizenship, which is the all caps picture. That's what you would need to go on if you wanted to go on a plane or in an airport, a portal. You have to do commerce. You go into a shop, you're doing commerce, so you have to navigate your passport. And that's the most important document on the land today, is your nationality, your passport, your freedom. That's what I use if ever I did, but I don't very rarely get stopped now. But the 1 or 2 times that I did, I'd use that, my right to travel against any time I've been ever, stopped or whatever. And that's all I use all the time now. I have a little photocopy of it with me everywhere I go. I have my rights, I have my fee schedules, I have all that sort of stuff, and I just carry on moving around. But what it's like here, it's you can see what they're doing. They're planting, they're destroying Bray with that, I don't know, plantation or whatever that game is they're at, and then you see down the road here, Greystones. But look, it's nationally it's changing, isn't it? The people are waking, but we're far way off.
I wonder, is it happening too slowly, or?
Look, who knows? Who knows? I know from talking, as I was in litigation with banks and financial institutions, and still am since about 2009. So I know a lot of good people in that field, and there's a couple of good people inside the courts, and there's big news going to happen this year in relation to banks and financial institutions. I think there's going to be a bit of success happening, and that might, it start all the cracks that we can see, and the empire falling and all that stuff. So bit by bit, there is a war, as that woman said earlier on. Fucking, we're at war, we are. Psychological 100%. War, plantation war. I mean, you see the war in Turkey getting hit.
Yeah.
Syria getting hit. They call it earthquakes. There's other people calling it harp. There's different stuff that's going on over there, and we're all at war. We're in the state of war. And that's what we're being legislated, and that's why they're getting away with it.
Yeah,
but only because people are accepting it in the wrong capacity. Does anyone else any questions, Mark, or how are we getting on there?
We'll have a look. We'll have a look. Folks, anyone want to jump in and have a question? Oh, instead of giving out to me on the site. Here we go. Trish, you're live there. Hello, Trish.
Hear me now, yeah?
Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah. Good
That's
live.
grand. Rory, I was watching a thing with yourself and Mouse about the passports. And I took out my passport and I looked at it. And I can't remember what it was, but there was something on the front of it that wasn't on mine that he was pointing to. And I'm just wondering, like, what should be on your passport? You know, when I opened the first page, there's the harp and the number down at the bottom.
Yeah.
But there was definitely something, and I was looking at mine, and I said, I must ask the lad sometime if I ever get an opportunity. So this is my opportunity.
Yeah. Have you got your passport there?
I have it here right in front of me. I'm looking at it.
You open up the front page of the passport. Don't worry about the cover. Cover doesn't mean anything. It's just a cover.
Yeah.
So you open up the front page of it, and you should see, you see these little. This is the way a passport should be held in your national capacity. It's like if you look at the 4 seals on the 4 corners. This page is the national there. This is the most important, the Clog Gaelic text.
Yeah.
Which reads that it's freedom. It's embodied in the national to move freely around. In the English they say a citizen of Ireland.
Yeah.
But it doesn't translate to citizen of Ireland.
Right.
Even on the passport. So it's that you don't have that on your passport.
I have that. Yeah, I do have that.
Right. Well, what do you
and then there was, I don't know what it was. There was something else as I was going through it. Mouse was holding it up.
At the bottom of that page, if you see that page there, right? Can you see that? Yeah. Am I holding that right? So you see the harp. That's the Black Irish Revenue harp. Then you have your national.
No, I don't have. I have the harp on the top. I have the Gaelic font, and then I have the English, and then there's a number underneath that. No.
A seal and a number underneath it?
No, it's just the number, but there's no seal.
Yeah, my wife's passport is exactly like that, Rory. I checked it.
Well, what happened there is your passport is pre-2012, maybe?
Actually, it's out this year, so it's 2013.
Yeah. What happened in 2012, 13, this is when we got this new passport. And the old passport didn't have that, and it's all to do with the Papa Bull and the Pope denounced corporations. And our passport was reissued with the sovereign, and you talk about that seal, and you look at the colours here, the sovereign, and it pushed the waves out, and it gave us our nationality back in this passport. So maybe when you apply for a new passport, your next one should have all of that there on it. You look at the back page as well. That's the if you can see that there, you have the green harp. That's actually your national harp, and you have writings. You have the Clog Gaelic font again. You have the 4 provinces of Era.
No, that's not on this one.
It, yeah. So I'd say that's the reason. Actually, you don't have you have maybe the Roman font or something other text on yours. You don't have the Clog Gaelic.
Yeah, that's unusual, isn't it? That you never noticed that. And the other thing, Rory, is what's the situation with our passports being issued by the Department of Foreign Affairs? Is that not strange? I kind of have an issue with that.
Yeah, well, it is the Department of Foreign Affairs, but a passport it's a unilateral agreement. So it's a one-way contract. So you buy it, you own it.
Yeah.
Department of Foreign Affairs. Who are they? Where are they? We have a Minister for Foreign Affairs, and he's your agent as a national. At the moment, it's Micheál Martin. I haven't had much much engagement with him. We used to be on there last year. I was on quite a lot to Simon Coveney's department, and we were getting emails back and forward from his personal secretary, but it all stopped. So you start asking certain questions. But
inconvenient questions.
I don't know, to be honest, what happened, why we don't have a Home Affairs here. There was a Home Affairs and it was changed.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah, to Foreign Affairs for whatever reason. I don't know the answers to that, but I know that we have the Cloak Gaelic in our passport now, and we have the dual nationality and citizenship
Yeah,
embodied
so it'll
in
be
that document.
interesting to see now when I get the new one in a couple of months.
Yeah.
Will it have that on the front? I'll keep an eye out for that.
You'll get one of those WEF ones, I'd say.
Yeah, you probably just see us all as
Come on now.
foreigners.
You said Micheál Martin, you said Simon Coveney, and now you said WEF. I'm not going to sleep tonight.
But yeah, no, you should get, and you're entitled to your Irish nationality now.
Yeah. That's brilliant. That's all, lads. Listen, thanks a mil.
No worries. Thanks for your questions.
Take care. God bless. Bye.
Thanks for tuning in, Trish. Thank you. Right, anyone else have questions? This is interesting. Anyone else? Come on, jump in. I'd like to give out. Yeah, it seems to be a few getting having problems there.
Is there?
Yeah, but I think the Sid was sorting them out there. Good old Sid was sorting them out. But yeah, folks, I'm just saying this is nothing to do with me. I'd love to have you all on. It's not on my end anyway. Anyone else have questions?
It's funny that, isn't it?
It's weird, isn't it? But see, I had to make this channel private as well because I was getting attacked there last week.
Or maybe the ones that can't get on aren't on this private chat then, are they?
As far as I know, they could still get on. There's a couple of names there that I didn't see before. I don't know, right? Like I don't know. You know what I mean? I just go with the flow, yourself.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's very interesting. Like I want to try and correct my status as well. Like, is it worth correcting a status, or would you recommend it? Or?
Well, look, it's worth. I looked into it and I done, like I looked at everything and anything, and I see correcting your status. Well, I done my own, corrected my own status, done my own document up, and my understanding of that is, it's your version of your birth certificate, isn't it? You create your own document. I produced it in court and one time, and the judge, it was a female judge at the time, said, "What's this?" And I said, "Well, it's my born claim, And, right, okay, and what else is it? And I said, "Well, it's a nice picture of me." I showed him alive. I maybe make it myself. That's what I done, But it gives you, I suppose, something, but it's not a lawful document to say it's you or not you. Look, going and joining societies and churches and whatever else you want to talk about, IRBs and getting all these documents, what are they going to do for you? I don't know. Really and truly, who's going to acknowledge them?
Well, they
Is it
leave
going
you
to be
€40
the same as your
anyway.
passports? Sorry?
You'd be €40 less wealthier anyway.
Well, it'd be easier just to open up the inside of your passport and say, "I'm an Irish national, I'm travelling," and give you. I mean, to be in the capacity of something, you need to be it, and that's it. It's that.
Yeah, it's a
other
mental
than that,
thing, isn't it?
If there's no paper contract between me and you, then I'm Rory, you're Mark, and that's it. Yeah. And then we have a right to contract or not after that. So just correcting your status is in your mind yourself, learning who you are, and finding the facts. It's very important because, as I said, we've all been indoctrinated, or conditioned is the better word to use. People have been so conditioned, and that's the sad thing. People talk about Ireland and all this stuff, and it's change your words, change what you're saying, change your dictionary, change your jurisdiction yourself. Yeah. So it's up to you. It's up to each and every man or woman.
It is hard though. Like when you think about it, like we have, in all fairness, we've known it as Ireland for so long. Like, and come on Ireland, the football and all. But
even the rugby.
The rugby. Yeah. So it's in people's minds, and I get it. But when people, like, there's a couple of people that have noticed that I do talk to, and they've started to use ERA, right? But they used to always use Ireland, and then I explained to them about the whole ERA thing, and they started to use ERA, and then sometimes it just they'd slip and they'd say Ireland, and I would just get them to look, and they're like, "Oh, I mean ERA." But I get it. I get it. I get it. It is Ireland to us, but they don't realize that Ireland is the corporation. It's not the nation. It's not who we are.
Yeah, it's not. Yeah, if you put Ireland down on a piece of paper or on a sign, It doesn't say
Accepting it.
era,
Yeah,
and it
accepting
never. It's you can say it in a language. You can, but really and truly in law we need to be writing era with a fada. You mean that one? Someone mentioned Damien, I think earlier on mentioned, or someone mentioned the sovereign seal inside the courts. That's behind the judges. Most of the judges, not in the CCJ, unfortunately, but we'll deal with that one next week. It had the key to it is era written in Clough Gaelic, because that's the font, that's the text. So the name of the state is era. And if you're writing era, you see people writing the big E with the fada. Always have a fada, but to write it and to say it, because it needs to. It's so important. It really, really is. Otherwise, you're just identifying to a corporation. That's how they've conditioned us. The rugby team is a corporation.
Yeah, that's it. The football
established in rugby. It's all corporations. None of it is actually even, part of the nation or part of the state era. They're all separate corporations off the state, statelets. So era needs to be the new trend word around.
That's it. Hashtag era.
And if we can get people to start writing in different text, if they're going to write in English, upper, lowercase, not all caps, and even Gaelic font. We do all our writing now in Gaelic font, even when we're writing the English, the old original English, which is our second official.
I know Toby now. Toby has a bit of a problem with writing English in the Clough Gaelic, but I do it anyway. So like I said to you, I love it. It's our text, and I just want to embrace it and try and teach the kids to do it as well. Like this, I think it's lovely.
Should have you can set your laptop as well for the Clough Gaelic font as well. And
I have the Mac on it, and I couldn't really get on the phone, but I have a few of my things. Yeah, I got the Clough Gaelic. Yeah, it's beautiful, absolutely
and
beautiful.
The one thing I would say to people, Mark, out there, and that's arguing about anything, who done what, who signed what, and what De Valera was or wasn't, or what Michael Collins did or didn't do, and all the stuff that they've been taught, because at the end of the day, none of this is like, even what I'm telling you, none of this is me. Even the name Rory-Brian isn't me. That's just the first name somebody gave me, which was my mother at the time. It's just stuff I've learned, and stuff you talk about is just stuff you've learned. So you just need to change a bit of your learning and to change that stuff. But whatever, the fact of the matter is the text and the language and the Clough Gaelic. And it can't be disputed. It can't be argued with.
No,
it's the old text.
Yeah, it's on statues. It's on old buildings. You can find it everywhere. I'm finding it all over the place. It's great.
But it's also the enrolled text as our law.
Yeah, and the first doll wrote in it. The first, they actually wrote. So
the very first doll was read out and spoken, and the Constitution, that was the 1919 Constitution. It was all done in Clough Gaelic,
Yeah.
The Constitution of Bunrocker Dáil Éireann, it was all done in Clough Gaelic.
That's it. It's true. So you can't say like it's not a text. It is a text, So we need like you said, the which?
There's no denying it.
No, there's not. No, there's not. You can't. You can't. And that's the thing. Like, I know they've been trying to hide it from us, and you need to ask yourself the question: why are they trying to hide it from us? And why did they try and change the text? And that's why the conversation I do have with a lot of people when I whip out the little book. Love this. This goes everywhere with me. And I just reading it all the time. But I do go up to people and go, do you ever see your text? This is your text, and they're looking at it going, what?
Well, the big thing I would say with the text is writing right here, right now, where we are in the world, but where we are on this island at the moment is common good being used. Article 6.1 in the Clough Gaelic text.
It's not in the Clough Gaelic. Is it in the Clough Gaelic?
No, in the Clough Gaelic text, it doesn't say common good. It's the people, and the people are written there 4 times, but the big one is is necessary for the benefit of people. Common good was a government word that they brought into to grammar to override this, and I'd say part of what they're trying to hide, the fact that these laws and these statutes acts that they're bringing out, using common good is not inconsistent with the Constitution. So if you knew your Constitution, you'd be able to fight all this. And this is what we're making people aware of. That's the importance of the text, the Cló Gaelic, because it's for the
really
benefit
important.
of the people.
Yeah. Very important.
Anybody else? Any other questions?
I'm going to have a look. Folks, any more questions going? Folks, there's a few that came in. Any questions? No.
So what we need to do going forward, Mark, is to just keep delivering our truths and proving ourselves in court. And just for me, you know, I never give up on people, but you know, you have to give up on trying to help people that don't want to. They want to keep doing the same things over and over again, looking for different results.
Yeah.
So,
It's true,
and on the other side, then we need to bring people around to come under one message or one whatever it is. But time will tell. For me, I'm delivering this message, and I'm telling people categorically here on this chat to you that if you don't correct, as you say, correct your status in your own mind and who you are going forward, a lot of these, you've seen how the COVID legislation affected you. Think of what this new legislation, how it's going to affect you if you don't stand in.
It didn't really affect me because I didn't wear the mask, or I didn't.
Well, yeah, but I mean, you wouldn't not been, you know, allowed outside your, you know, you would have had a little hassle with it, you know, you weren't allowed to do certain stuff,
the
go
pubs
certain
wouldn't let me in.
places.
Yeah, the pubs wouldn't let me in, so I just boycott them all. I don't even go near the pubs anymore. The ones that you know, they wouldn't let me in. I say, well, fuck you then, you know. That's how I do it.
Yeah.
I couldn't be arsed. Like, I actually know people, right, that they're musicians, right? So like, I'm a musician, but they're musicians, and during all of that, they you know, they couldn't play music. Because remember, the music industry was really hit, right?
Yeah.
And I remember when I was on Facebook. I'm not on Facebook anymore, but I remember at the time it was really bad, and a lot of people a lot of people were making a big living out of playing music, but the pubs wouldn't have them in or anything. And as soon as they start lifting all it is, they went straight out and start doing the gigs in these pubs. And I couldn't understand that. I was like, but they wouldn't, you know what I mean? They took away your bread and butter for nearly a year and a half, and now you're just running out like a whore, you know, whoring yourself again. I just couldn't understand that.
Well, yeah, and the publicans, back to Republican. We'll talk about that actually. They were getting well paid for it.
Oh, big time, yeah.
You know,
big time.
they were getting they were getting probably more money being closed than they were open. So it suited them. But yeah. But then on the other side of that, if you're sitting at home for the last fucking year and a half, scratching your whatever and dying out to play music, and all of a sudden the opportunity comes, you know, you can't begrudge them ones either.
Oh, I get that, but
they were happy getting their 300 quid and banging the drums in the back room for a year or two, but you do probably get itching to get back out into it, you know. So you have to. It's back to you, you know. Is that benefiting you now? Not to. It's up to, you know. That's a freedom of choice. But I would like to talk about the word Republican and nationalist. You know, and you see a lot of people talk about being a nationalist party or a nationalist. A nationalist is somebody who, I suppose, wants to be a national. That's what it is. You know, it's a group of people on an island or in a part of the world, in a landscape, that want to be a nation. That's what nationalist is. So if you're a nationalist, you're someone who wants to be part of a nation. We already have a nation. Do you know what I mean? It's just like, what the fuck? There you go. There's their conditioning. And then Republican. It sounds like a licensee, doesn't it? So, I mean, we live in a republic. We're not Republicans. We're the nation, not nationalists. They're the words that people need to be looking at changing going forward as well, Mark, for themselves.
That's how ignorance gets in the way, isn't it? It just completely changes the narrative.
And it's not about liking, you know, it's not about me getting likes or you getting likes or all that. I don't do this to be liked.
I'm doing this for the kids.
It's too important for anything else.
Yeah. Doing it for the kids coming up after us.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
we are.
Like the likes of Devil Air and whatever, Michael Collins, all of them boys, they fought for us in the future. So it's now our time to fight for them, for the kids coming up behind us.
Yeah, to do whatever
So
we can. But
we
we're
won't
in a
have it.
different
We won't
stage
have an
of.
island. Yeah, we won't have an island. If we don't fight for it now, we're not going to have anything in the next 10 years. I could see it happening.
Yeah, well, certainly. I mean, if you look at the bigger picture of what their agenda for this island is,
Yeah.
we could talk about the mining, prospecting, and the devastation of the whole. I would say rural Ireland will be gone, completely devastated within. I don't know how long it's going to take, but if it starts, we're fucked. If they start mining.
Everyone be squashed at 15-minute lead in cities. You know what I mean?
15-minute cities, probably up along the east and side of the island and wherever else it's going to be. Yeah, 15-minute smart cities, AI technology.
That's not a life, is it?
Yeah, cross gender or cross human, whatever the fuck they want to call themselves, people or persons. They don't want to be people, they want to be a person, don't they?
Yeah, robots.
So the thing we're fighting not
to
to
be
be, they're
persons, to
fighting
be
to
robots.
be. Yeah, I know.
Bleep, bleep, bleep.
Crazy, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, it's crazy world we live in. Crazy.
Yeah, to watch it unfolding in front of your eyes some days without it affecting you.
It's mad, isn't it?
It's not easy.
Yeah, you go cuckoo. Like I do have moments, during the week. I'd have a day where I just stop and I'd be thinking about it, and then the next minute I feel my eyes and all going cuckoo. I have to take a deep breath. I go out the back, take my socks off, and go in my bare feet and just get a bit of the energy out of the grounds.
Yeah,
do a bit of gardening. Yeah, I love doing the gardening, and then that gets me grounded again.
Yeah. Minimum 15 minutes a day. Get out there. You'd have to with the grounding for yourself. Yeah.
That's it. That's a thing, like, and it works. Sure.
Yeah, the unity of the island is happening. There's no doubt about it. It's happening.
The people are coming together. Yeah, you can see it. I love
it's
it.
Definitely coming together.
Yeah, you can see a lot of people from the north, and they're all coming down, and they're all talking to each other again, and we're starting to realize, we're the air and egg, and we're fucking part of air, and we're all one. I love it. I love that side of things.
Yeah, that's good. And then we have to, I suppose, we all know this plantation of undocumented men, let's say. But then we also have to look at the people who have come to settle on the island.
Oh yeah,
foreign nationalists. Some of them citizenships here, because you can sail your ship to any nation and become a citizen of there.
Yeah,
doesn't make you a national, but they're here too, and they're all multicolour.
I've met
like
loads
me,
of
or white like
people.
you, or white like me, and how are we going to integrate all that?
Yeah,
but they must.
That's the thing.
Yeah, our culture has to be protected, and our nationality.
It does. See, the way it is, like Deborah, right? I know Deborah. She came on earlier. Now she's not Irish, but she might as well be Irish because she's fighting for Ireland and she loves Ireland. So that the way I see it is, people come into the country and they really integrate and they become one of us.
Yeah.
All day long, you support that all day long. But these people coming in and trying to change our culture and trying to change everything and trying to change laws to suit them. No, that's where I draw a line. You have to, like you said, to protect your culture. You have to. That's all we have is our culture.
Yeah, and you can see it all around if you look around the world, this woke culture, this new woke culture is trying to impose itself on the world. Which I suppose, who can deny anybody a culture? But they're not only trying to bring their culture in, they're trying to kill off your culture while they're doing it. Do you know what I mean?
That's it.
This is what we want to do, and by the way, you can't do what you've done for the last whatever anymore, because we don't want to do. It's a bit fucked up, isn't it, when you think about it?
It's nuts. I mean, you have to kind of, you have to kind of keep your mind straight, don't you?
Yeah. The famous poem, The If, isn't it? Keep your head when all around you are losing theirs, blaming it on you.
I seen that quote. Where was that quote? I seen that quote
That's
somewhere.
in the poem If.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Right, so thank you for it's good one. Yeah, I've seen it. But nice of coming on anyway.
No bother.
I'll let you'll probably up down
worse on a Sunday night.
The which?
I said we could have been doing a lot worse on a Sunday night.
That's it, brother. I'd rather be speaking to you. I'd talk to you all night, but I know you have to get up and do the old carpets. You know what I mean?
Well, tomorrow I'm actually doing a bit, yeah. I still like to do
Yeah.
a bit of work. It's good for me head. So a bit on tomorrow, yeah. Nothing too major now. I do enough to keep me going for it. I'll do a couple of days this week, and then I'm heading up to Ulster on Thursday.
Oh yeah, when's the next? When's the next presentation?
Good question. The next ones, I think we had a great presentation in Cork, I have to say, and there was 70 plus people at it. But there was a good level of understanding at it.
Yeah.
And a good calibre of mix of people, professionals and whatever. So hopefully, I think the next one is going to be in Limerick. And then we're going to come back to Dublin to do one for, we're going to join up with the Lighthouse group and someone else up there and do a presentation.
Limerick.
So yeah, Limerick next and then Dublin.
I'll be a few bouncers for that one, dear. Yeah, Limerick. I'm only messing.
Fuck, you know. No fear.
Nah, we're all
for fear. But yeah, get back to the text.
Look after each other. The which?
Yeah, that's it. You know, someone said to me, "Are you worried about them? You know, taking you out?" And I said, "Well, they're either going to take me out or take me in." Do you know what I mean? So it's fuck it. But no, yeah. Look, we're going up to Ulster, Mark, and we'll follow up with that because we're meeting a couple of people who are Clough Gaelic workers, and we're hopefully going to set up a few, maybe online classes or something. Do a bit of Clough Gaelic, and we'll get the Constitution properly interpreted. The website's coming soon. Good work happening with that in the background, slowly but surely. So yeah, the future is a little bit brighter than it was when I started out trying to talk about constitutions to people, but it's nowhere near enough yet. So people of era, we the people. Remember the name era. Let that be. Do you know what we should do, Mark? A campaign.
Yeah.
Of the way people done I was thinking of this mad stuff today. They had this challenge where they threw a bucket of water over themselves and it went.
Yeah, remember that, yeah.
I think we should start a campaign on this land that everyone hangs a tricolour out of their house or out of their fucking home or somewhere like that, and get the streets and get the colours out, get our flag, get the name of the state recognised, that sort of stuff, because this is where you're going to bring, especially working class communities who are probably more under attack than anyone so far. With the migrants, get people knowing where they are again, because we need our tricolour scene, our green, white, and orange.
Yeah.
So these little things, community groups, get talking. But look, I know people don't like probably to hear this, but we have to engage with members of society in all walks of life and find a way of doing it.
I'd love to see as well, Rory.
And
I'd love to see a lot more of the Irish dancing as well, because a lot of it has changed to hip hop. Everything's fucking hip hop and like, don't get me wrong, I like that culture. Being a musician, I love the beats and stuff like that. But it like you said, you go and you accept one culture, and then you start seeing your own culture disappear. But I'd love to see more Irish dancing. That'd be great. Like,
yeah, we definitely more culture, more colours, more. Because it's all you've seen. It was all every town you go to, they've taken the flags down.
Yeah,
it was,
you try to hear
Easter Sunday, there was Ukrainian flags flying on, on the street. This sort of stuff.
We have a monument where we are. It's for the fallen in 1916, and there's an Ireland flag hanging out of it. But you took there was only one pole. Like I believe when you put it in another nation's flag with yours has to be higher. But there was only one pole, and they took the Irish flag down, the tricolour, and they put a Ukrainian flag, and I kicked up more than it did.
Shocking, isn't it? Shocking.
Oh, shocking. I said, get that down now. So now it's a big, massive tricolour. It's lovely. And I look at it every day and I go, I did that.
I bought a load of little, probably about 2 foot ones with little plastic, and I was going around for a long time. And everywhere I went to visit someone, I'd stick it on their shed or on their house or whatever. So, get them out. Get them out,
that's how you do it.
Their colours.
Yeah, that's how you do it.
So we'll head off now, I think, Mark. Was anybody want to ask a question maybe before we go, pal, or what do you want to do?
I'll have a look. Anyone have a question before we head off? Anyone? Going once? Going twice? Thanks for coming on. Anyway, appreciate it.
Pleasure, brother. Thank you.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. sure I've talked to you during the week or whatever. I'd love to go to the north. I said it to Mark a few times. Like, he keeps coming over. It come up to me and whatever. But
Yeah.
he's mad. He probably say one thing 1 minute and then But yeah, I'd love to go up and visit anyway.
Why don't you?
I try and organise it. Yeah, great crack. It's
Maybe one
beautiful.
of the times when I'm heading up, you can head up now, brother.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
It's a great actually part of the islands. Very, there's more culture up there than there is down here. Unfortunately, we became.
That's the thing. Yeah.
Especially around. I'm Bray, and you go in towards D4 there. We're very European, very snobby.
Oh,
I
was at a protest in D4. I know it too well. Oh, very unbelievable. Yeah. Unbelievable. Yeah. No. Okay, on that note. Yeah, that's it.
All right.
Well,
Slán a Guffin, go to me, Mahwood.
Slán a file, my brother. Go him.
Remember, feel safe.
See you later. Take it easy. Thanks.
See you later. Bye.
See you later. Thanks for tuning in, folks. I'll see you. Talk to you later. Iha ma. Oh. Iha ma.
You what?